An emergency has been declared in a U.S. city after it has been devastated by a major and sudden flooding event. We also have hazardous material crews on the ground dealing with the situation, and multiple people have sadly lost their life. So let's get into all the details here. All right, you guys can see this is some of the stuff that is happening in Globe, Arizona. All right, this is about an hour and a half east of Phoenix, Arizona, and you can see some of the flooding that is happening here. People were trapped in their cars. This happened very quickly. Okay, this was a flash flooding event, and sadly 4 people have lost their life from this. All right, you can see here it says devastating flooding leaves 4 dead in Arizona as officials search for more unaccounted for. All right, you can see here's Globe, Arizona. This is where the floods are taking place in this region, and you can see it's right outside of Phoenix. All right, it's about an hour and a half east of Phoenix, Arizona. All right, so this isn't typically a place where you would expect flooding to happen, but that's why it's been so devastating, is because nobody was ready for this. All right, and there aren't typical like gutter systems and sewer systems, mostly out west in these western towns and western cities. They do not just have giant sewer and gutter systems along the roadways like they do on the East Coast, and especially the Southeast, where they get a ton of rain and they're used to this. When they just get a few inches of rain, it devastates the entire area. All right, you can see here it says devastating floods have left at least 4 people dead in Arizona as rescue crews work to find more unaccounted for after heavy rains hit the region Friday night and the Saturday. And we're going to get into this earthquake news as well too. All right, we're getting more earthquakes hitting off the coast of Oregon, and look at this outside of Yellowstone. All right, we're getting a lot of activity in this part of the Rocky Mountains. We will get to that in just a second, but you can see here it says 3 people. This was written before they updated the headline. It's not 4 people, but it says here have sadly passed away. It says another person was found Saturday morning near where a vehicle was caught in floodwaters the night before. It says the vehicle was found partially submerged in up to 9 feet of fast-moving water on Friday night, the fire department said. The police department deployed drones and helicopters and determined the car was empty, according to statements from the Scottsdale Fire Department. Saturday morning, when the waters dropped, officials found a body pinned under a walkway bridge outside the vehicle, the fire department said. All right, there's also HazNat situations going on. We'll get to that in a second. It says Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs declared a state of emergency for Gila County, directing resources for ongoing search and rescue efforts countywide, including authorizing deployment of state National Guard for support, quote, as needed, she announced during a Saturday evening news conference. It says Hobbs said she spoke with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem Saturday evening, indicating that FEMA is prepared to assist in disaster response if necessary. With more rain on the way Saturday, the city of Globe has also declared a state of emergency and is asking people to stay inside due to hazardous debris. It says officials are currently looking into reports of missing people, but it is unclear how many are unaccounted for, Melford said. All right, so they're even asking people to stay inside, and this is due to the hazmat situation because all the flooding washed a bunch of chemicals into the town, and there's also a lot of even propane bottles all over the place. You can see here it says a new flash flooding warning was posted Saturday afternoon by the National Weather Service as thunderstorms moved across the area. It says historic downtown Globe is currently unsafe with compromised buildings as well as hazardous chemicals and debris, including propane tanks, the city said in a Facebook post. It says about 1,000 bottles of propane were released from a facility south of the city. The city's mayor, Al Gameros, said at an emergency city council meeting Saturday. It says they are scattered around the downtown area and on the highway, he said. All right, so multiple different chemicals and hazardous material are in the region, and that's why they're asking people to stay inside, and that's why they've deployed hazmat crews as well too. All right, so pretty bad what's going on here. And how many times have we seen this? I mean, I feel like I've made this same video like 24 times over the past year, where these towns are just getting beaten, just destroyed. I remember Roswell, New Mexico, last year, at the end of last year, going on a year ago now probably, got hit really hard and completely just like washed away entire parts of the town. Cars were stacked up and smushed into walls, buildings, things like this, from the rain and the water just pushing them around. It's insane, all right? And this is happening again in another town here, all right? So pretty shocking that we're seeing this again. And I don't know if this is normal, but it seems like the frequency and the occurrence is happening a lot more often, right? These like 100-year floods, these 1,000-year floods, it seems like they're happening every year, and every few weeks we're getting these major disasters, okay? So part of the reason they're telling people to stay inside is because they're saying the highways are covered in propane tanks. They don't want people driving around. Some of them are probably leaking. They're saying they're monitoring the air quality. It says Melford said several of the tanks were leaking, and quote, "We did deploy hazmat teams to address those, and we've got air quality monitors in place. It seems that the situation is getting remediated," he told CNN. All right, and it says the Gila County Division of Emergency Management told residents to shelter in place as they cleared the debris and watch for more rain expected in the area. It says, "We ask that they do not interfere with the active search and rescue operations going on. They have a grid pattern. They have a strategy. They're trained professionals, and any people going into the area that's being searched by dogs, the son of the person attempting to help could actually interfere with the search." It says officials are currently assessing damage to buildings downtown, and the mayor said at the city council meeting, teams of people are searching the area to make sure no one is inside. Crews from the Arizona Department of Transportation have been contacted to come assess if there is damage to any bridges. Public Works Director John Angelo said at the meeting, and they're saying this is, quote, "unprecedented flooding." It says Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport got 1.6 inches of rain Friday, according to the National Weather Service, the most rain in one day since October 13, 2018. Gameros said numerous vehicles were swept into the waters, according to a Facebook post in the overnight hours Saturday. Now teams are searching all the cars that got washed away, the mayor said at a city council meeting. Earlier, he declared a state of emergency and said that the city was in the active emergency mode. He said that the water came so fast, it is, quote, "an understatement to call it just flash flooding." Quote, "There wasn't enough sandbags, there wasn't enough equipment. I don't think there was enough warning that could have helped us prevent what happened. You cannot prepare for that," Globe City Council member Moreno Gonzalez said. The width, the length, the breadth, and the depth of that event last night was unprecedented. It says video obtained by CNN affiliate KPNX appears to show torrents of brown floodwater rushing through a street. Resident Allie Mills shared a video of the aftermath in Globe with CNN. The video shows large piles of mud and ruts in the road where drivers have driven through the area. Jessica Welder was working at a restaurant in downtown Globe on Friday night when floodwaters swept through the city. She told CNN the flash flood lasted for about 2 hours. She took a video of a white car floating in the road and several vehicles in deep water. It goes on to say that Greg Butcher walked in downtown Globe after the flood only to see his city was devastated by the high-powered water. He said, quote, "Oh my gosh, I just got downtown Globe just here this morning and it's a mess. There's propane tanks everywhere," he said in a video as he walked. He said the floodwaters knocked out a railing on the small bridge over the wash. A crushed silver car can be seen turned upside down under the bridge. "Think of us," he said, as he ended the video. The county emergency management said there's one shelter operation and more are being set up. There's also a call center set up for residents looking for information. It says Globe is a city of about 7,200 people, about 90 miles east of Phoenix. All right, so he's saying, think of them, keep them in your prayers. All right, this could be your city next. I mean, I was getting flash flooding warnings at my house a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, going on a month. Flash flooding alerts, and it was going on for like 24 hours straight. They were warning, hey, there's going to be a lot of rain, and we're kind of like in the hills, you know, so the rain really picks up speed, picks up momentum, and starts moving very quickly in the hills, and it can wash away things very, very fast, right? My house is actually like reinforced with tons of rocks and boulders, things like that, all along the base, because it's kind of on a hill, it's kind of on a slant, and the dirt around it gets washed away, right, in these big rains. So to prevent that, we have a ton of big rocks diverting water, and we even have like metal sheeting and things like that to stop erosion, right, in certain areas where it's bad, near, you know, foundation points, things like that. So it could happen anywhere, right? That's my point here. And you should really be prepared and be ready, right? And it can happen at a moment's notice. It can happen when you're feeling good, when you're feeling sick. My wife, my kids, we've all been sick. I have 3 kids. We've all been sick past 3 days now going on. And anything can happen, right? It doesn't have to be ideal situations. It could be in the middle of the night. It could be at a non-ideal situation, right? That's my point here. And you need to be prepared, be ready, have some cash, have some backups, maybe a generator. I'm sure the power is out for a lot of people in this region as well too, and they're having to go further away, maybe all the way to Phoenix, to even get services and things like that, because they're all just shut down right now, right? So pray for the people here. Hopefully things get better and they can get things cleaned up, but it's hard for these small little like rural communities, especially these, you know, western towns or southwestern towns. They're not that big, you know, they don't have much funding, and it's hard for them to recover from situations like this, right? There's only 7,200 people there, you know. It's not like this is a big city that has billions of dollars taxpayer money to actually get things back to normal. It's devastating for all the people there, and they're even saying that FEMA might get involved as well too. They're looking at that, and that will probably release some federal funding for them as well too, right? Let's look at these earthquakes really quick. I want to show you guys. All right, so we had another couple earthquakes off the coast of Oregon. Not big, but something to note, because this wasn't really happening the past few weeks, and now the past few days, right, the past 72 hours, there's actually been multiple earthquakes here every single day off the coast of Oregon along the Cascadia subduction zone here. So we have a 4.0 and a 3.3, something to be aware of, that a big one could even hit this region. We always think of the quote big one hitting somewhere like Los Angeles or something along those lines, but there's multiple different stress points in the US. We have the San Andreas fault in Los Angeles. We have the Cascadia subduction zone over here. We have the New Madrid fault line, right, in the center of the country. So, and we have Yellowstone as well too. So, and look at Yellowstone right now. Quite a bit of activity, right? These diamond ones are quarry explosions. There's a couple of those. I'm seeing one right now. But the rest of these are all earthquakes. You can see a 2.2, 1.5, 1.1, 0.07, or 0.7, sorry about that, 0.8, 1.5, right? So not big ones, but frequent. And kind of a lot of them, right? That's the most I've seen in the Yellowstone region in the past month or two. All right, so definitely a good cluster is hitting this region. Also, we're still getting this cluster here north of Elko, Nevada, this really weird earthquake cluster that's actually near a, quote, ancient volcano. But you can see here these 3.1, 2.0, 3.0, 2.0. I mean, just right here, there are 13 earthquakes that have hit north of Elko, Nevada in the past 24 hours. Okay, so there could potentially even be a reawakening of this ancient volcano here. We saw that happen in Russia on the Kamchatka Peninsula. We actually saw a 600-year-old dormant volcano re-erupt in the past few months. All right, I think that was the Krashenikov volcano, if I'm remembering off the top of my head. There were two main ones, the Kluchevskoy and the Krashenikov, I think, was the, quote, ancient volcano that re-erupted. All right, lots of activity in Alaska, typical, but something to keep an eye on. All right, we could have a big one hit Alaska soon, just like we saw this big one hit Russia. We could see a big one hit here, cause potential tsunamis and even potential eruptions for Mount Spur. All right, Mount Spur has been issued warnings multiple times over the past year that it's going into yellow territory, all right, where there's unusual activity. It's currently in a normal state, but it's something to keep an eye on. All right, another cluster here north of San Francisco. We saw San Francisco awoken by 4.3 last week, and then look at this cluster that keeps hitting north right now in frame 33 different earthquakes. And you can see these ones near Caldwell Pines, Castle Rock Springs, Mercuryville. There's dozens of these quakes and aftershocks, or maybe even foreshocks, hitting this region. All right, so make sure you guys are prepared, all right, for anything, whether it's a big war popping off. Okay, hopefully that doesn't happen, but we're seeing lots of tensions escalate in multiple regions of the world. All right, we're seeing tensions escalate Russia and Ukraine, in Europe with NATO. We're seeing escalations between US, China, and Taiwan, escalations between the United States, Israel, and Iran, and even now the United States and Venezuela. Okay, so we could see that. We could see, you could just have random flooding, flash flooding hit your area. All right, it could be a fire. Look at these fires that have hit over the past 24 hours. All right, you can see these smoke plumes over the U.S. Fires all the way up in Idaho, Washington, Montana, smoke from them combining with smoke from Canadian wildfires and reaching all the way down into the southwest areas and giving these yellow alerts, air quality alerts all over the place. So if you're in the southeast and it's kind of hazy, this could be why. Could be fire smoke all the way on the other side of the country potentially. All right, and we're even seeing some wildfires pop up in unusual places. Look at this one is in southern Mississippi. All right, 147 acres wildfire. Here's 450 acre wildfire in southern Mississippi, 100-acre wildfire. All right, so I mean, look at this. The ocean is right here. This is extremely hot, humid, almost a semi-swamp area, and it's catching on fire somehow. All right, so something's going on, and these fires are even becoming more common here. You can see all of these images here. You can see the smoke even coming in. Like, these are fires too. They're just not named or anything yet, or have specific boundaries for the amount of acreage, right? But all these little red spots you're seeing are also fires indicated by satellite. And if you kind of zoom out, you can see there's actually a lot of them. There's like dozens of them in Louisiana alone. And you can even see they're creating their own smoke plumes. You can see this here. Satellite fire detection. So it could happen anywhere. You think you're safe in certain parts of the country. Even things like earthquakes, all right? There's like, you think there's no earthquakes in Florida, all right? There's typically not. But when you look at the fault lines, there's actually earthquakes going on. There's a fault line right here cutting through Cuba and Haiti, and there's actually been clusters of earthquakes happening in this region surrounding Cuba, Haiti, and Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. So if a big one hit there, it could potentially cause tsunami alerts even for places like Florida. So just be ready anywhere you are. All right, that's my point here, is just be ready, be prepared, be stocked up, whatever it is, a fire, a earthquake, flood, a big war, civil unrest. All right, we're seeing lots of just societal unrest in especially major cities happening right now. So be prepared, be stocked up, don't be scared. I hope you guys have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.